Hey everybody, it's Friday, August 9th. Let's talk PlayStation. As always, before we get into the main cover story and, the title of the video, let's talk about some of the things that happened this week. Kind of a slow news week in the game industry, of course. A couple weeks coming up is Gamescom, so, everything's a little tight-nipped until, the conferences start and all that big news starts coming out. But, of course, I'm kind of predicting that some leaks will happen before that, so we'll cover anything that happens in between then. But, first news story, hey, PlayStation Plus. Sony's got all these things outside of the paywall for PlayStation Plus. Now we also know you do not need PlayStation Plus if you want to record PS4 gameplay or stream it or share it or do whatever. I honestly don't know what else they can say about this. Pretty much everything is outside of the PlayStation Plus paywall except playing online games. So if you want to go and murder your buddy, that you don't have to join PlayStation Plus. This is obviously good press for Sony because Microsoft is still getting heat for keeping all these features inside of the Xbox Live Gold paywall. So I don't know, good stuff there. It's nice to have all these things outside if you are going to require for online, but there's another thing you don't have to pay for. So this next one's a little interesting. Basically, there was a Blacklight Retribution demo being shown on the PS4, and during the video, basically, the game crashed, and you could see the PS4 UI, which is not the actual UI that we're going to get. It's obviously a early test kit of the PS4, so what you see right now, that is not what the final build will be, but you can actually hear some of the noises inside of it that kind of hints at what the PS4 UI is going to sound like when you're navigating menus and all that. Totally nerdy, but it's like that one small little thing where we get to see a little bit more about PS4. If you want to see the video, I'll leave a link down below, but basically you can see an early test kit of the PS4, and you can hear sort of the noises that might make it into the final retail version of PS4. So what's going on with these HD collections? We're getting a whole bunch of these things: Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, God of War, Final Fantasy, Sly Cooper. We're getting so many of them, right? And they're cool. I like them a lot. I like replaying my favorite PS2 games in high definition. But hey, looks like there's another one coming, and we just don't know what it is just yet. Blue Point Games has been responsible for a lot of these remasters, and basically they posted a job title looking for someone that can help them bring a new Sony classic to current consoles. So who knows what it could be. So another HD remaster of a classic Sony franchise. I've got a couple ideas, but what do you guys think? I want to hear what you think it might be. So this one kind of silently squeaked out this week, and I posted a video about an extra little tip inside of it, but PS Vita got firmware 2.60, and has a couple of small nice features, nothing really major. Basically what they added is easier cloud saves for PS Plus members. That's kind of cool. If you hold the PlayStation button down, then you actually get a bunch of toggles that, much like you've seen on Android or iOS 7 coming up, has toggles for Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and all that. That's kind of cool. You can stream PS3 and PC media to the Vita if they are connected. That's kind of alright, I guess. There's anti-aliasing for the home screen, so the actual bubbles that were on the Vita's home screen had a kind of a they were really roughed and textured and all that. It's kind of smoothed over. And of course, if you haven't seen it yet, I posted a video that shows a little tip about 2.60, which basically allows the PS Vita to hide PlayStation trophies. So you want to hide your PS3 trophies, your PS Vita trophies, whatever you want to do, you can actually do that from the Vita now. Posted a video about it. If you want to see it, click that link. Whatever I decide to put there, just click it if you want to see it. If not, don't click it. Alright, so let's talk about Shuhei Yoshida, that beautiful man at Sony, always answering questions on Twitter in a very funny, charismatic manner. People had some burning questions this past week, and you better believe he answered them. Real quick, if you don't know, Microsoft posted a video unboxing the Xbox One and all that, and basically Shuhei replied to a couple tweets kind of ragging on them about that, poking fun. That's always funny stuff from him. But he also answered some really interesting questions. The one question I always get, because people seem to think that I might know the answer, is, can we change our PSN names? On PS4, will we be able to change our PSN names? People really want to do this, and I don't blame them. People pick dumb names and they want to change them. Someone asked him on Twitter, and Shuhei did reply to that. He basically said that's everyone's favorite question and that he cannot answer it. And then at the end of the tweet, he put a happy face. Obviously not the answer we want, because people are more than willing to even pay a small fee to change their PSN ID like they do on Xbox Live. I totally understand that. Some people pick dumb names and they're more than willing to pay for it. And I don't see why Sony wouldn't do it, right? It's easy money to charge people just to change their name. I mean, people are more than willing to do it, so I don't know why Sony wouldn't implement it. But point being, if there's anything to interpret of Shuhei's tweet, I mean, it seems like there's sort of maybe it might happen. I mean, he put the happy face at the end. I don't know about you guys, but when I read something and I get a happy face, I think something's going to happen. And even then, he didn't outright deny it, so it's like, the possibility's out there. I don't see why they wouldn't do it. They should, and I think they most likely will. I could see them doing it. Alright, so let's talk about the PlayStation Vita. One thing that happened last week that I didn't catch in the last week's episode, and of course, A couple news sites picking this up. I guess Machinima and Inside Gaming Daily, which I did see the video. They basically have an anonymous source that basically a PS4 and Vita bundle will be coming out at the end of the year for $500. I replied to a couple comments of people asking me, and I said I kind of don't see that happening because that's kind of ludicrous. And I do believe that I highly doubt Sony would do a PS4 and Vita bundle for that price. It sounds way too good to be true, and I just don't think Sony would do that. But, you know, if I was proven wrong, that'd be great. If Sony did a bundle like that, holy crap, that'd actually do really well. But besides that point, because I don't really believe in that story, and I don't really think they're that credible of a source anyway. Point being, it kind of sparked one thing that you know, that I've always wanted to talk about, a burning topic, which is, you know, PlayStation Vita and where it stands now. You know, like, is it a success? Is it a failure? How's it doing? Where's it going? Where's it going to be? All questions of that nature, right? Just the platform itself and how it's doing and the state that it's in. So I thought we'd talk about that. The PlayStation Vita problem, if you will. Now, right off the bat, when the Vita was announced and, you know, months into, you know, before it was coming out and stuff and reading all these news stories, I knew right from the get-go, and I was saying right from the get-go, this is not going to be a device that's going to sell gangbusters. This device is not going to sell hundreds of millions of units. I highly doubt it would reach up to 50 million units in its lifetime, which is even less than the PSP and PS3 right now. There's just no market for it, right? It's currently sitting at, what, 5 million units sold worldwide. I just, from the very beginning, I knew Vita was not going to be a device that would sell gangbusters. And I think one thing is, you know, people put it into perspective of the 3DS or compare it to smartphones, which is the dumbest thing ever. But, you know, they put it into perspective and they think, okay, the Vita's really not doing so well right now. Couple its lackluster sales with its lack of game developer support. You know, there's not really a whole lot of major games coming out on the thing. A lot of indies are jumping onto it, and that's great. A lot of ports are coming to it. That's cool. That's fine to play. And it's the, you know, the Vita has games, right? It has good games. It had a really good start, and then it really dropped off, and now we're seeing a lot of these smaller games come out every week. And there's really, you know, very large gaps between these major release titles. Like, we've got Killzone Mercenary coming, Tearaway, Batman Origins, all those things, right? But, you know, they're very far spread apart, and it's not what people thought the Vita would be. People thought the Vita would be this grand, amazing handheld, which it is. I feel like it's a really great piece of hardware, but people are also expecting that every week there's going to be a blockbuster title. You know, Ubisoft and Activision and Bethesda and all these companies would be jumping onto the platform to make incredible, huge games that the system is clearly capable of. And of course that isn't happening because the Vita isn't selling, and obviously publishers and developers are not going to jump on the platform because it's not a place of great profit for them. And, you know, that's where the Vita really starts to struggle, because it's not selling a whole lot of systems and it's not selling a whole lot of software. Which is why, after saying all these things, it paints a very bad picture for the Vita. A lot of people do believe, you know, the PlayStation Vita is certainly going down. It's kind of a failure at this point. And, you know, that one thing about failure is how do you label failure? Because everyone has a different idea of it in the video game industry, because of course people are very opinionated in the video game industry. You know, you YouTube commenters, you just like to say whatever you please and however you feel, and, you know, everyone's entitled to opinions. But, you know, what do you classify as failure? That's the way you really got to look at it. By no means would I call the Vita a failure right now, simply because the Vita is not off the market. It's being sold, it's being bought. Not big numbers, not developer support, not publisher support, but it's like it's out there, it's being sold, and it still has plenty of life to go with, you know, price cuts and, of course, impending PS4 that might stimulate Vita sales. There's all these factors that we haven't seen yet certainly we can't label the Vita as a failure just yet. But I think it's completely fair to say that the Vita is not living up to our expectations, right? I didn't expect it to do this bad. I expected it to not sell gangbusters, which is, you know, what it's not doing, but I didn't expect it to have this much lack of developer support and publishers and all that. So, yeah, absolutely. It's not living up to what we thought it would be. But not living up to what we thought it would be does not equal failure, because the system still has a ton of life left. And like I said, I don't think it'll ever do huge amounts of sales, but I think it'll live a healthy life cycle. At this point, I think it's kind of tough to say that the Vita will ever have that sort of situation where it is getting all these big major, you know, releases on it that are original Vita titles by all these big publishers and developers. I don't think we'll get there. I kind of think that boat's kind of passed. just because I think the Vita numbers are too low, and even if they do get even if they do get bigger, I don't know, I still don't see that support coming, but I would obviously like to be proven wrong. With that in mind, the way it could be proven wrong is, of course, Sony stimulating Vita sales with a price cut, which could possibly happen at Gamescom. We don't know about that just yet. This video could be irrelevant tomorrow because it gets a price cut. Actually, Target right now in the US, I believe, is selling Vitas for $200. So there's, there's other ways that, retail stores are, price cutting the Vita left and right too, so that's good. But let's say, a permanent price cut comes to Vita. That is definitely going to help sales. By how much? I don't know. Some people are saying that, when the PS4 comes out with that remote play sort of situation, that'll stimulate Vita sales. I don't know if it'll do, I don't think it would have that much of an impact on Vita. Maybe it will. But, who knows? Because I obviously don't know. I don't know. I guess to kind of conclude this discussion of the PlayStation Vita problem, is it a problem? I think it definitely isn't a problem zone, right? Because, like I said, I listed all those problems. It does have problems. But at the end of the day, can you mark it as a failure? I don't think so whatsoever, because it's still out there, it's still being sold, it still has all these other factors to consider when it does get a price cut, or if it ever does possibly get bundled with PS4. That could certainly help sales. What does the future hold for Vita? I obviously don't know, but what I would think is that it would receive a price cut. It does get better sales. Games are coming out for the system, whether you like it or not, whether it's not these original titles that are full-scale console games in a handheld like you wanted, because I wanted those too, and, there's some coming, but of course they're spread out. All these things which we already talked about, but it all comes together in the fact that I don't think Vita is a failure, because obviously it can't be listed as a failure just yet. And even if let's say it even sells only 10 million units throughout its life cycle, so it's already halfway there, for example, and it really does just taper off, and Sony does have to, cut it loose, and they have to stop making them. At the end of the day, like, as a business, did you make profit on it? And if they did, maybe it's not as much as a success to you as it was to them, but money's money, and money talks, and if they made money, then they would probably be pretty happy. And the damn thing about it is, Vita is in a very, 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 very tough market. It's, and the reason why the 3DS is doing so well, whether you like it or not, I'm going to say it, 3DS is mostly being sold to a very younger audience. That's why that system's doing so well, and that's fine. Nintendo's making plenty of money with the 3DS. Gamers are buying it, tons of kids are buying it, and people are loving it. But the Vita is like a strict core gaming machine, and not a whole lot of people need that nowadays. At its core, the PlayStation Vita is a niche device for that small group of people that do choose to buy it, that hardcore audience. And, I guess that hardcore audience is not what it takes to get all these great games to come to the system. I mean, great, full-scale, like, console games on a handheld like people were expecting, but there are games coming to it, there is support coming to it. It's got PlayStation Plus, it's, it's going to see a price cut at some point, possibly a bundle. It has a whole lot to go, so the PlayStation Vita still has a long ways to go. Do I think it's going to be the second coming of Jesus? Probably not. Do I think that it's going to live a healthy life cycle, and it's going to make Sony money, and it's going to make that niche, group of, people that bought the Vita happy? I think so. But of course, people, this is the internet, so fire off in the comments below about what you think about the Vita and its current situation. That wraps up my little discussion in today's Let's Talk PlayStation. Hope you enjoyed it, obviously. I'm Ryan Benecki. Thank you so much for talking with me. I'll see you next Friday.